that word, sorrow. And I think everybody's thoughts go out to Her Majesty the Queen today. Yes, of course, in recent years, the couple at times spent time separately. After the Duke of Edinburgh retired from public duties in 2017, he was spending a great deal of time in Norfolk, while the Queen, of course, continued on with her official duties, mainly staying in London and also in Windsor. But certainly in the last year, due to COVID, the fact that they were brought together here at Windsor as staff around them did everything they could to protect them from the coronavirus pandemic meant that as a couple, they probably spent more time together in the last year than they had done in previous years. And I think as you've been reflecting on with so many guests this afternoon, what people will now talk about is just what a support he was to Her Majesty the Queen over the years. And while in recent decades, our focus has inevitably been on younger members of the royal family, whether it was during the 80s and 90s, the Duke and the Queen's own children getting married and having children, or most recently, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge or the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Now is an opportunity for us to look back on those wonderful archive videos and photographs and really reflect on the impact that they've made as a couple, not just here in the country, but around the world, carrying out overseas tours together, trips up and down the country. And for the Duke of Edinburgh, yes, it was difficult when Her Majesty became Queen at the age of just 25. For him, it meant a complete change of role. He was enjoying his time as a naval officer, but immediately realised that he was going to have to take one step behind Her Majesty at all times. And he did that with so much dignity, respect, and a sense of duty.
Rhiannon Mills, our royal correspondent at Windsor, thank you very much indeed. People gathered outside the palace there in Windsor, reflecting on the long and varied life of the Duke of Edinburgh. Members of the public also gathering outside Buckingham Palace, where the flag is flying at half-mast. It's where the statement was placed on the royal railings, announcing the death just after midday. The Queen is grieving for her beloved husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, who's died aged 99. Buckingham Palace announced Philip's death just after midday, issuing a statement that spoke about the royal family joining with people across the globe to mourn his loss.
This is Sky News live from Windsor Castle as we report the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. The Queen has expressed deep sorrow over the loss of her beloved husband of 73 years. The Prime Minister and world leaders have paid tribute to the Duke's service. He was the longest-serving consort in British history. Good evening from Windsor Castle on the day the royal family announced the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. Prince Philip, His Royal Highness, passed away peacefully this morning. He was 99 years old. The Queen, who remains inside the castle here, has expressed her deep sorrow over the loss of her beloved husband of 73 years. World leaders, including the Prime Minister, have paid tribute to the Duke's service. Here is the statement from Buckingham Palace announcing the news. It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announced the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family join with people around the world mourning his loss. Prince Philip was last seen in public on March the 16th when he was driven away from King Edward VII Hospital in central London. He initially received care for an infection, but then underwent heart surgery for a pre-existing condition. Our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills, reflects now on the life of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh.
always by the Queen's side.
Tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage.
Prince Philip was a devoted consort and father.
I am so happy. My future husband is by my side.
He was a fun parent to have around and very conscious of spending time with the children when he could.
Shaping his own legacy through his charity work.
5,000 quid, which will go a long way to help a great many families.
I think we'd better get on with the celebrations now. Thank you very much.
His straight-talking manner.
Do I look ill?
And commitment to his country, embodying the values of the wartime generation. In 1921, Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark was born in Corfu. But as a baby, his family were forced to flee their home due to a military coup. Effectively homeless, they eventually made their way to Paris. But when he was 8, his mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and sent to an asylum.
I mean, it's difficult for me to imagine how on earth he coped with the sort of family life that he had. And I think he hugely valued the family life.
In his late teens, a career in the Navy gave Prince Philip a sense of stability. While training at Dartmouth Naval College, he was asked to escort a young Princess Elizabeth during a royal tour. 6 weeks later, Philip was sent to war, serving in the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean. He stayed in touch with Elizabeth by writing letters.
There was quite a lot of correspondence went on, and they probably managed to meet occasionally.
He was a bachelor. Again, remember, this is wartime, and you don't know whether you're going to get blown out of the sea the next morning. Adds a certain sort of frisson to the whole of life.
With the war over, they were reunited, and in 1947, their engagement was announced.
For the famous balcony came the bride and bridegroom.
Their wedding was a cause for celebration. The Duke of Edinburgh and his Duchess soon settled into married life. Their first 2 children, Charles and then Anne, were born.
They're taking the places of the King and Queen who would have gone but for His Majesty's illness.
But in 1952, as they were beginning a tour of the Commonwealth, everything changed.
To the stunned heart of London and to the whole Commonwealth came the tragic news from Sandringham of the passing of a beloved sovereign, King George VI.
The couple were in a remote hunting lodge in Kenya when the news came through. It was Prince Philip who had to tell his wife her father was dead. A year later came the coronation. His wife was now queen. He was her consort.
Next, the Duke of Edinburgh, preceding the other royal dukes.
With his wife settling into her new role, he was forced to give up his career in the Navy. In a rare interview, he talked of how difficult that decision was to make.
I thought that I could perfectly well go on with this with the career. It didn't seem to, and it would have seemed to me would have been of great value to the Queen when she became Queen eventually, to have somebody who was, in a sense, professionally qualified at something, and not just traipsing around.
But the Duke of Edinburgh would carve out his own path, travelling across the country and around the world promoting his favoured causes. From British industry,
3 out of every 5 gas turbines flying or on order in the entire Western world are British.
To the environment.
There are exciting opportunities to protect some very significant habitats.
And doing his bit to help young people.
So I wasn't prepared for this. So I think we'd better get on with the celebrations now.
Out of the 800 charities that he supported, the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme was one of his biggest achievements.
Very active, lots of interest, and constantly encouraged us in all sorts, get involved in all sorts of activities, and that's been, that's the bit that we will always remember.
When his wife needed him for overseas tours, garden parties, and the big state occasions, he was for decades a constant by her side.
The main lesson that we've learned is that tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage. You can take it from me that the Queen has the quality of tolerance and abundance.
I think it would be a very lonely place to be if she didn't have a life partner that she has with Prince Philip. He has his own interests as well as the interests of the Queen as well. He sort of has her back, really.
Out of the public eye, he was also someone his 4 children could turn to.
Lots of different members of the family would always find him a good person, a good sounding board. But it was always done very quietly, and he would never talk to anybody else about his conversations.
The 1990s were some of the most challenging years as his children were getting divorced. In 1997, Princess Diana was killed in a car crash. They were criticised for staying in Scotland, keeping the young princes away from London.
That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing.
It was, in fact, Prince Philip who encouraged Prince William to walk behind his mother's coffin. In an age of increasing political correctness, Philip at times became as well known for his gaffes as his good work, a reputation he wasn't fond of. An outburst at a Battle of Britain event, just one that made the headlines. Many of those closest to him would argue he was full of fun, helping his wife to modernise the monarchy, making them more accessible.
I'm sorry, you're standing down.
In 2017, he retired from his own programme of royal duties. In retirement, he stayed active, his independent spirit brought into the spotlight when he was involved in a car crash and then spotted driving 48 hours later. Occasionally, in his latter years, he would still appear alongside the Queen for big events and family celebrations. In 2020, he made an unexpected public appearance to hand over one of his longest-standing military patronages in the year that he also marked his 99th birthday. It was his marriage that would place Prince Philip at the centre of national life, as well known for his humour as his charity work, a man with a deep sense of duty to his family, his country, and his Queen.
He has quite simply been my strength and stay all these years, and I and his whole family.
Might actually have to pause that person. Or mute it, I guess. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty wild. I don't know. Just had surgery. I thought he was gonna make it. I thought he'd live another like 100 years. Shit. Thank you, Price. You're a sweetie. Anyway, there's too much noise going on in the background. People are coughing and talking too loud, so I'm just gonna end this.